Hey, it's Thomas here, your aquatics expert with Big Al's, and today I'm going to show you how to set up an EXT canister filter by Cobalt using my preferred configuration. All right, so step one of setting up any product is first get it out of the box. So we're going to go ahead and open this box up here. All right, we're just going to move this off to the side. And first things first, we've got a set of instructions. We've got the pump, then the canister itself, and in the side here, we've got our appropriate size tubing, and then the bits and pieces for the installation kit, as well as some lubricant to make sure the O-ring stays nice and supple. So we're just going to move this off to the side, and we're going to open up the canister itself. There's 4 clips, which you're just going to pop open, and then the top comes right off. You'll notice that this top is really, really light. It's because the pump isn't a part of the top of the canister like most motor heads. It's actually separate. So I'm just going to put that off to the side and start pulling out these baskets that are stuffed absolutely full of media for you right out of the box. And you notice all the media is wrapped up, with the exception of the final container here, which has the foam. So we can leave this one in, and the nice thing is Cobalt's made it so it doesn't matter which way you drop it in, it's always going to go in nice and sit exactly the way it should. So just going to go ahead and take out the foam. Floss panels. You'll notice it's a loose floss. You can just fluff it up a little bit and stick it in that box. Next up, we're going to do the rings. Naturally, I'd rinse these first, because if you don't and you try to put it back in, this can happen. Next up, you got your carbon. You notice they give you the carbon loose. You can put it directly in the basket, or you can put it in a bag first. It's really up to you. Personally, I usually put it in a bag, but we're going to do it the good old Cobalt Aquatics way and just add it directly to the basket. Go ahead and add everything to the canister. Drop your top basket in. Make sure everything's sitting nice and flush. Cobalt actually provides a small package of lubricant for you to keep the seal rings on the unit nice and supple. This is mostly for the valve block, but I also like to add a little bit to the O-ring around the canister head. So you can use something small and flat like a coin. Just pop the O-ring out. What you got here, you'll notice it's pretty much the same on both sides. It's got a high ridge. So it doesn't matter which way you install it, it's going to work well. So what we're going to do is just open up this package of lube from the side that's already nicked for you. You're just going to push a little bit of lubricant out. Doesn't really take much. I like to just get a little bit on my finger. Then I'm going to grab the O-ring, and I'm just going to run my finger on both sides of it till I get it slick in one spot, and then just keep running it through your fingers. And you're going to move that little bit of lubricant, because it doesn't take a whole lot, around the entire O-ring. Just enough to get it nice and glossy. Then put it back in. Just going to line it up along the edges. And you'll notice when you're putting the lid on, doesn't matter how you put it on, it'll fit. I'll actually put it on sideways intentionally just to show you. And you're good to go. All right, so next up, we're going to get all our parts out here. We're going to get these set up. So the input and output tubes are identical. Then you've got a few extra parts here, which I'll go over with you. All right, so what we've got is we've got the input and output pipe. We've got a duckbill or a deflector for the output. We've got a pair of elbows. We've got a strainer for the intake. We've got 2 suction cups that have a pair of clips to hold the tubes on the back of the tank. We've got 4 clamps to make sure the tubes don't pop off. And then we've got a set of 4 suction cups, which are actually for the back of the pump. So depending on how you're going to install this, it could be a little bit different. But my favorite method, which is the self-priming method, includes the pump going into the aquarium. So for that, what we're actually going to do is take the nut off the bottom of the pump, and put it aside. We're then going to take these suction cups and then get them installed. And then we're going to take the strainer and put it on the bottom of the pump. You'll notice that there is a flow indicator on the pump to tell you which direction the water is going. If this is in the tank pumping water, you want it to be pushing up into the tubing. So that's how it's going to be set up. Next, we're going to set up the output for inside of the aquarium. So you're going to take one of the elbows and stick it on the end of the pipe. And then you're just going to put the flow deflector into that elbow. You can have this set however you like. You can have it set so it's pointing up towards the surface or down if it's pointing towards the bottom, depending on the flow style you're looking for. I like it pointing a little bit up. That way it ripples the surface of the water for good aeration. We're likely not going to be using this guy since we've got this set up. We're going to go ahead and install these two suction cups here. They just go into the clip like so, and then you turn them sideways to lock them in. All right, so next what we're going to do is we're going to cut a very small piece of tubing to attach the intake stem to the pump. Now, you can do this at the tank. If you want the pump all the way at the bottom and the stem doesn't go to the bottom of your aquarium, no problem. You can literally cut the tubing the length that you need to go from here to the bottom of the tank for that pump, but I actually don't want it necessarily all the way to the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and cut a short piece of tubing. It's always best to try to cut it as straight as possible. And then what you can do is put the tubing on the pump and then reverse thread the lock nut so it clamps onto the tubing. That way it doesn't accidentally pop off. And then you're just going to take the intake stem and feed it into the tubing. And it's best to get it as tight in there as you can. Now, because this is underwater, I'm not really worried about it popping off. At this point, we're ready to go to the tank. So we're going to take the tubing and the inlet and outlet and the canister itself and get it all set up at tank level. Now, normally you'd do all this under the stand, but for demonstration's sake, I'm going to do it on the outside so you got a good view of everything and how it's going together. So with the canister in place, first thing I'm going to do is put the intake and output stems on the back of the tank, and then I'm going to get ready to attach the tubing. Now, just a quick tip. For getting tubing onto fittings, it's a lot easier if you warm it up first. So what I like to do is get a glass of really hot water and then dip the tubing into that, count to 5 or 10, and then it's nice and supple and ready to go on the back of one of those pipes without too much force. And then we're going to grab one of the little plastic clamps, making sure it's on nice and tight, squeeze it until you hear it click a few times. If you have a look at the top of the canister, the barb nipple that's closest to the actual handle of the valve block is for the intake tube. The one opposite of that is for the output tube going back to the aquarium. So now that we know where the tubes are going, we're going to do the intake tube first, followed by a clamp, and then the output tube, followed by another clamp, just to be safe. Now, normally this is where you'd prime the canister, but we don't have to because we've set it up in such a way where it's going to prime itself. So we're going to go ahead and plug this sucker in, and you'll be able to see firsthand the self-priming in action. So as soon as you plug it in, you're going to hear the pump working, you're going to see a bunch of bubbles flying out of the output, and that's going to stop. You might get a few patches of bubbles here and there. Feel free to give the canister a shake to clear out the rest of the air, and then it'll start running smooth, and there you have it, you're good to go. So that's how you set up the Cobalt EXT canister filter. It's a fantastic filter. It's super easy to put together. It's even easier to prime, and it's quite appropriately rated at 55 gallons, which is great, and it's a very easy to maintain and innovative canister. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to check out all the other videos on our channel and subscribe because we got new content coming out every week. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us on social media like Facebook or Twitter, or check out our new live Q&As that we're doing on YouTube. We'd love to answer your questions there. And as always, just keep on tanking. Even easier to prime with that self-priming function by plugging it.